to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
All right. Welcome to the show today, everybody. This is Doug Crow, your host with the Author Brand Show. Make sure you click below and subscribe. Get some free goodies from us because, man, we've got a great show today. I always say that, right? Oh, it's a great show. But it is because you're here listening and watching and learning from a guy who, he's got a pretty good career, something that you'd all be very proud of if you were him. He started his basketball coaching career slowly, being fired in his first varsity position, but he's able to rebound and finish with over 400 wins, right? Many championships over his 30-year career. And in his coaching journey, this gentleman was blessed being part of a global inspirational story with his autistic team manager, Jason McElwain. He's been married for 38 years, and he's got a son named Tyler. And I'd like to welcome to the show, Coach Jim Johnson.
Thanks, Doug. I'm looking forward to the show. It should be fun.
Well, it better be because you're the star, man. So, all right. So 400 wins. You have to forgive me because Doug is not the biggest sports guy, but that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, in our area, because we average playing regular season somewhere between 18 and 20 games. So, that's quite a few years to get to that point. Interesting, I guess, to give everybody hope, whether they, you're in business or coaching or whatever you're starting, is I actually, as you mentioned, I got fired in my first year as a head coach. And actually, after I think it was 6 or 7 years, my overall record was something like almost 50 games under 500. So I did not set the world on fire when I started my career. But the neat thing is I guess what I'm most proud of is that I kept growing and getting better. And fortunately, things started to turn. And actually, after 7 years of kind of struggle, my last 23 years, we never had another losing season. We started to accumulate a lot of not only winning seasons, but winning championships. And so I ended up, having a pretty nice career for sure.
Well, we're going to talk about leadership stuff here in a minute because that's so important in sports. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm confused. What level of is this? High school, college?
It was high school, yeah. So I was the varsity coach, which is the highest level. It's normally mostly juniors and seniors in high school. Sometimes you'll get a few younger guys on your team, but so I not only I was the varsity coach, but you oversee an entire program. In our case, we had five teams that I was in charge of. So,
oh my gosh! All right, so Coach Johnson, 400 wins. Inspirational story about your team manager. I want to hear about that. And then we go to leadership. Let's talk about that first.
So, I was going, and as I mentioned, after a slow start in my coaching career, we started to get some real momentum. But kind of my big stumbling block in my coaching career after we started having winning seasons is in our area, we have what we call our Section 5 championship, which is a pretty big deal. And we had never won it. And so that was kind of my dream, because we were getting close, but we just weren't able to finish it off for whatever reason. So in 2003, I had this young man come into our program. He was very, very small in stature, maybe 5'6", 90 pounds. And he tries out for our JV team. And my JV coach comes to me and says, Coach, we have this young man named Jason McElwain. He's on the autism spectrum. And this is back in 2003. So I did not know much about autism. It was just starting to become a little bit more prevalent and knew nothing about Jason. And he said, you know what, Coach, he's not a good player, but he's got a big heart. I think we should keep him in the program. So he ended up keeping him as the team manager.
Sure.
And he was so into our program, even though he was not a very good player. His attitude was contagious in a good way. And so he would sit on the bench for the JV and the varsity games. And after the season, he really wanted to make the varsity team, the team that I coached. So he came to all our off-season workouts. We had some kids who were really committed, but he was right there with any kid as far as if there was, if he came to an open gym, a league game, he never missed. And so, but, he had a lot of strikes against him in the sense that he was very small in stature. He wasn't a very good athlete. And he's also learning disabled and on the autism spectrum. So he has a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
But his heart and soul just grew on me. So his junior year, he tries out for the team. He doesn't make it, but I offer him the team manager's job for the varsity, and he quickly embraces it. And that year, we had lost in the sectional semifinals in my career 5 times. We never got into the finals. And so at the first meeting his junior year, he gets up in front of everybody and says, Coach, we're going to develop this slogan this year. We're going to stay focused. We're going to help you win your first sectional championship. I said, well, thanks, Jason. And by that time, I tagged him the nickname J-Mac because I couldn't pronounce his last name. And
just like I almost
said,
did.
thanks,
Yeah,
J-Mac. Right. And we had a good season. We got to the semifinals now for the 6th time in my career. And we lose at the buzzer to our crosstown rival. And we are devastated. Yeah. So Jason, again, he comes to everything between his junior and senior year, comes out his senior season. And, he's not good enough to make the team. But again, I wanted to keep him part of it. So I offered him the team manager's job. But this time he was disappointed because he really wanted to make the team. I said, well, I'm going to give you a gift this year. And he says, well, what's the gift? I said, for senior night, I'm going to offer you a uniform and hopefully get you into our final home game, which we call senior night. Yeah. So that season, ironically, I wrote a book called The Coaching a Miracle about it because at the beginning of the season, and it's too long a story to go into it, but basically we had a lot of turmoil and a lot of internal strife, and it had divided our team. And even though we were quite talented, we were really struggling. And fortunately, Jason was one of the rocks. Well, after Christmas, we finally started to get things together a little bit. We got some momentum. And senior night was February 15th. On February 13th, I gave him his first uniform. In fact, there was a rumor that he slept in it for 2 straight nights. He was pretty excited. And so the game comes on February 15th. And that year, if you Google an ESPN JMac video, it's on YouTube. It's gotten like millions of hits on it. It's pretty popular. They have a little documentary about it. But basically, we had a really good student body following. And they start chanting at the opening tap, we want JMac. We want JMac. Yeah. So, well, of course, I wanted to get him in, but not right at the beginning of the game. So with about 4 minutes left in the game, I had gotten everybody in but Jason. I put him in, and my whole dream was, is I wanted to get him, have him score a basket. I thought if he could score a basket, that's a memory he'll have for the rest of his life.
Sure, yeah.
So he gets in. What I didn't know, because I'm usually fairly macho, I usually don't cry at basketball games. And when Jason walked on the floor for the first time, our student body, one of our parents had made all these placards, these pictures of J-Mac's face, and put them on a paint stick and gave them to the student body and said, if Jason gets in, show these. Well, I had no idea they were doing that. And when he walked on the court and I saw them give me a standing ovation, I actually sat down and tears started to roll down my face. I was profoundly touched. So now the game begins. Jason is in his first varsity basketball game. First time he touches the ball, he's got it in the right corner behind the three-point arc. He lets it go. The crowd kind of stands in anticipation. Yeah. It misses by like 6 feet. It's not even close. And I kid people that I know you're not supposed to pray in the public schools, but I was praying, dear God, please help him get one basket. Well, the second possession, which you don't see on many of the videos that are out publicly, he actually has a much shorter shot. And this time he hits the rim. So I'm thinking, all right, God's starting to listen. We're getting closer. Then the third possession, he shoots another three-pointer from the right wing. This time, magic. It goes in. The place just explodes.
Way.
And I'm thinking to myself, God must be a basketball fan. Not only has Jason scored, he's got a three-pointer. Can't get any better than this, right? Wrong. For the next 3 minutes, ironically, Jason's idol was Kobe Bryant. And, of course, he passed away last year. But Jason actually, I'm going to fast forward and come back and finish the game. Jason, after that game, 4 months later, is in California at the ESPY Awards. He's one of the 4 finalists for the greatest sports moment of the year. And one of the other finalists is his idol, Kobe. Kobe had scored 81 points in an NBA game, and he was going against Kobe, and he wins the ESPY over Kobe. So that was truly remarkable. But to go back and just finish the game, so Jason, I kid people, he turned into his idol, Kobe, because he starts making shot after shot. And the 2 things I'll never forget, with a minute to go, I'm sitting on the bench. I cannot believe how many baskets he's got. Tears are still rolling down my face. Yeah. and I get a tap on my shoulder, and I'm shocked because I'm sitting on the bench. I look behind me. It's Jason's mother. And she bends over and she whispers in my ear, "Coach, this is the best gift you could ever give my son." Of course, I cried harder. I was so touched. And then how the game ends is like a Hollywood ending. I really couldn't make this up. Our opponent, Spencerport, and I want to give kudos to their coach and players. They were good sports that night. They score about 10 seconds to go. And our player that takes out of bounds, normally he throws it to our point guard, but he throws it right to J-Mac. So J-Mac's dribbling down the court. And people are just kind of thinking he might just go in and make a layup and end the game. No, he pulls up like 2 feet behind the arc, almost an NBA three. I'm thinking, Jason, don't shoot from there. He launches this rainbow. Swish. That's how the game ends. He makes a three at the buzzer. The place just erupts. The only thing I think of is I thought I was living the movie Rudy, because all the players run on the floor, all the spectators run on the floor, and I'll never forget. Jason's parents have an interesting dynamic. His dad's 6'6", and his mom is 5'2", and I see this little bitty lady bombing through the entire crowd, and she gets to Jason and gives him a big hug. Then at this point, Doug, I had no idea how many points he has. And our players put him up on their shoulders. He's got the game ball over his head. And our public address announcer comes on and says the leading scorer for the Trojans tonight, J-Mac, with 20 points. So he literally scored 20 points in less than 4 minutes. I just was in total shock. And then to kind of put the cherry on top of the story, is 3 weeks later, in front of a sold-out arena with about 10,000 people, we made the finals and actually won our first Section 5 championship that year. So, and then I guess the little fast forward, Jason, after being away, he graduated from high school. He did not go to college. He ended up going into the working world. But a couple of years later, he came into my office one day, and he said, "Coach, I really miss the program. Can I come back and help?" And he was my volunteer assistant for the last 9 years. And we ended up winning a number of championships together, as him being one of my assistant coaches. Charm. So, yeah, exactly. Wow. In fact, I've kidded people that for a small fee, I will run him out to people because he has a good luck charm. So,
amazing story, Jim. Wow.
Thank you.
That is amazing. We definitely want to. Send me the ESPN YouTube clip on that. I'll put it in the show notes down here.
I will. Yeah.
People can watch that. I want to watch it.
Yeah.
So, basketball career, amazing story with your team manager, and you wrote a book about. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But you do leadership consulting now, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, what did Jason teach you about leadership?
You know what? The best thing that he taught me was resilience. And I think, that I felt like that I had it in my life because, I went through a lot of trials and tribulations in my coaching. But after I met Jason, it magnified me 100-fold of the importance of perseverance and the fact that you just got to keep staying with it, keep working hard, keep staying, doing the best you can day in and day out. And, that year was so beneficial because of just admiring what Jason did day in and day out. And then the fact that he came back in our program. And the other thing that I guess I really admired him was that, he was asked in numerous interviews after that game, what was the best thing about your senior season? And he would always say it was winning the championship. It wasn't his game. And that's because he was all he cared about was the team. And so he was just a great example in our program of what a great teammate is all about. I mean, he was the guy that always would come in early to practice or stay after to help guys, work on their shooting or other parts of the game. And so, the kids admired him for that. And that was the one thing. He had a very difficult time. And I know probably part of it was a little bit his disability, but he always struggled with anybody that didn't put the team first. But, I think as a leader, you're always trying to find, how can you find the right people that care about the success of the team first? Because it's great to say, but much harder to do, so.
Yeah. Did he have any conflicts with anybody else at school? Would everybody respect him?
He definitely had issues throughout his life because of his disability. Sure. So I mean, and he even now, like, because he's considered high functioning. So like you can
Okay.
have a conversation with him, but, because I've known him for so long. I'll give you a quick illustration.
Mhm.
Jason's one of these guys. I mean, he's huge into sports, not just basketball. Basketball is his love, but
Yeah.
he just loves sports in general. So if he came into our office and we were talking about World War II, he would change the subject. Like we might be delving in, and then all of a sudden he would bring up, "Hey, did you see what LeBron James did last night?" One of my colleagues will say, "Jason, what does that have to do with World War II?" But he didn't want to talk about World War II.
He's focused.
So he would just. He was just one of these guys that his care in his heart was just bigger than anything else that you could say. He had this big heart for people. So.
What do you think the difference is between somebody who has resilience naturally or somebody that doesn't and has to develop it?
Well, I think the one thing that, because I've studied a lot about successful people because I wanted to be
Yeah.
successful myself and
Yeah.
be a great leader, is that I really believe that resilience is something that you have to develop.
Yeah.
Some people may be more ingrained with it because maybe they have really some difficult situations like Jason did growing up.
Sure.
But we all have our challenges. But you know what? It's hard to find anybody that's had great success that didn't have that characteristic. That
Right.
they overcome a lot of different challenges and
Yeah.
obstacles throughout their journey. That's got to be at the top as far as successful people are perseverant. They find a way. I call it the never give up mindset.
Right. And I'm guessing, babe, what you said earlier that you thought you had it before, and then you upped your game, as it were, after working with him, right?
Yeah, because the one thing that, as I said, that just the fact that, his chances of ever making the team were so remote. But in his mind, it was like, you know what? I'm going to work my buns off to try to make this team. And I was going to give, no excuse. I was just going to strive to try to get better every single day. And I think
Yeah.
the kids really fed off of that. And then, as I said, I know I'm being a little redundant, but the fact that I think what the greatest respect the kids had, and I want to give you an illustration. You talk about essence of teamwork, is that when Jason got in that game, I knew the kids respected and liked him because of what he was all about.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how they were going to react because, there were four other guys that, were in the game that don't play a lot like he,
Yep.
and he didn't play at all. And yet in their hearts, they decided that they were going to make it special for him. And in those last 4 minutes, he's the only one that shot. In fact, I still kid Jason all the time. Jason, I'm still looking for your first assist. You didn't pass the ball once.
Ball hog.
But it really gives you, as a coach, it was one of my proudest moments to see how four kids were willing to sacrifice to help a teammate out. I call it the shining the light on other guys, and that's what what essence of teamwork is all about.
When you do leadership consulting and training now, what kind of companies or better yet, what's a story of where you saw a big shift in a culture or a company or a team in the business world?
Well, in the business world, I do presentations, and what I developed is, again, depending how long they want the presentation, because I do, they're fairly interactive, but I talk about 7 keys to being an effective leader, and the first thing is for me is clarifying your vision. You got to, leaders have vision. They kind of paint the picture for everybody, and they get people to buy into it. The second thing that I talk about is the ability to build trust. And what I really try to focus when I talk to businesses or coaches that are trying to build teams and that type of thing is that I think you need to be intentional about building trust. I don't think there's anybody that would say that you don't need trust. But yet I usually get puzzled looks when I share, what's your plan to build trust? And then I talk about 3 keys that what we did, because I took over 4 programs. The first one was a complete failure, and then the other 3, I was fortunate that we were able to turn them around. And in doing that, we really had a trust process. And the 3 things that we focused on, because I took over 4 programs that were bad, 1 remained bad because I only was there 1 year, and the other 3 we were able to turn around.
3 out of
And
4 is
what
not
we
bad.
talked about is, number 1, we had to change the mindset. So we were going to really share and praise people consistently. Number 2 is that we had to tell each other the truth. And the third thing is in helping people, we had to try to catch them doing more right than wrong. Because when you go over into a program that's been bad, or just like going into a business where it's been a struggle, people's confidence are low. They're apprehensive of you as a new leader. How are you going to build this team? And so they got to be able to respect you and make sure that you really have their back. And those were some of the things that we really tried to do when we were building trust, is that we were going to consistently do that day in and day out.
Wow, that's amazing. Is any particular stories of companies when you're working with them where you saw a big change in a person or?
Well, it's interesting because I work with one consultant that does a lot of consulting work. He does a lot of construction companies. I've spoke to this one company a few times, and he says, they're a tough group, coach. He says, these are all middle level managers. And after my presentation, they gave me a standing ovation.
Nice.
And he told me, he goes, Coach, I've had a lot of different presenters come in, and you're the first one that's ever gotten a standing ovation. So I think it had an impact with them. That company's brought me back a few times. So they they definitely feel.
A copy of your book handy there?
Actually, I got it behind me. Let me grab it.
Yeah, go grab one. We can show the audience your book.
Yeah,
and I'll make you get the whole screen. So is that on Amazon or?
Yeah, it is on Amazon, and you can actually get it on discount on my website, CoachJimJohnson.com. And
Let's go there then.
Free bookmark that it will have my leadership keys on as part of the bookmark. So yeah. So,
perfect. And you got contact information there too, I'm guessing, right?
I'm sorry.
I'm guessing there's contact information on your site.
Yeah, on my website, JimJohnson.com. It's got all the contacts if anybody would ever like some help, either individually or working with their team and that kind of thing. So.
Outstanding, Jim. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was great having you on, and I can't wait to watch your video clips and get your book.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. So
you bet. Thank you so much. That concludes the show for today. Don't forget, go ahead and subscribe below and watch that video clip of the most amazing basketball thing. Beat out Kobe Bryant in the contest thing. Doug Crow with Author Brand Show. Have a good one.